from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning. What is happening, folks? April 27th, 2021, Security Gang. Last few days, we were unable to broadcast. We're back on track. We're good. We're set. We've got our equipment. Everything's functioning. We've done all of our stress testing. And like many of you know, that's part of what it takes to do these. So we're back on track, traveling again. As we build a new remote studio, and we're working on that, we'll be broadcasting from this here location. But it's great to be with you guys this week, with you guys and gals, being all inclusive. So let's get into today's show. We've got a lot of things going on in the world of cybersecurity. This week's been crazy, right? But today we're going to be talking about Coca-Cola's investigating a breach. Could the secret formula have been exposed? Iran is back on the move. Chrome has a new patch, unique update. The number of publicly available databases has gone up significantly, no surprise there. And a virtue signaling $10 million offer by the U.S. government, which we'll definitely be spending some time on as well. Before we do, though, a big shout out to KnowBe4 for their support of our program. You can find more about them in the show notes. And a cup of coffee. So it's a Dunkin' Donut cup, but it's not Dunkin' Donuts in here. I promise you that. It's my fancy double espresso coffee cup. Cheers. All right, let's get into what's happening here. Oh, that came off a sync there. There we go. So the number of publicly exposed database instances has hit a new record. Researchers are now showing an increased number of exposed databases, with 308,000 databases identified just in 2021. The growth continues quarter over quarter. It's peaking in the first months of this year. In the first quarter of just 2022, there's been 91,200 instances of exposed databases. This is according to Group IB in a report that was shared with Bleeping Computer. Exposed databases on the public face of the internet in many cases is due to misconfigurations. However, threat actors hunt for them, get them, and that's how they get their hands on data. Telemetry data gathered this way doesn't show if the open databases are vulnerable to security flaws or if simply they're misconfigured or anything of that nature. Most of the exposed instances are on servers based in the US and China, while Germany, France, and India also had notable percentages. You can also see there Singapore, Hong Kong, Russia, Japan, and Italy all in that list. When it comes to the database management system used in exposed instances, most of them are Redis, with almost double the number of the runner-up in Q1 of 2022, MongoDB. Elastic accounts for a smaller portion that is still in the tens of thousands, while MySQL recorded the fewer instances, according to Group IB. And I think that's the one that surprised me the most. I figured MySQL would be top, but it's not. So a lot going on here. How are you auditing your databases? What kind of security measures are you taking? Are you encrypting your data? What kind of user authentication are you using? How are you managing the keys, packet inspections, proxies, and so much more? All a critical part of your online databases is something to definitely keep in mind as we move more and more towards the cloud. Let's move into Chrome. Chrome 101 patches 30 different vulnerabilities. So another update to Chrome with 30 security fixes, including 25 for vulnerabilities identified by external researchers. The most important of the fixes results in high severity use after free issue in the 3D graphics and computing open standard Vulkan that's used in Chrome. Stract SCV 2022-1477. The bug was reported by Seong-Wan Park, who received 10 grand for his efforts. Good for you, buddy. 6 other external reported high severity flaws were all addressed with the release of Chrome 101, 4 of which are used after free vulnerabilities that impact the Swift shader, 3D renderer, the Angle Web GL backend, and the device API, and of course the sharing component. So time to go and update your Chrome. We do those once a week. Coca-Cola is investigating hackers' claims of breach and data theft. The world's largest soft drink makers, I'm a Coke Zero addict, as my wife would argue that I should drink more water, but I just can't help it. There's an investigation going on after the Stormus gang said it successfully breached some of the company's servers and stole 161 gigabytes worth of data. I wonder if the secret formula is in there. The threat actors also listed a cache of the data for sale on their leak site, asking for 1.65 bitcoins, currently around 64,000. If you had the Coke formula, you'd be asking for 64 million or 64 billion dollars. So who is Stormus? And this seems to be more of a kind of like stamping their name. We got into Coca-Cola. We've got 161 gigs. Everyone pay attention. We're the new ransomware group. They claim to be a ransomware group. They're closer to a data extortion group. They've stated that they would take action against hackers' attacks against Russia in the wake of its invasion into the Ukraine. This is the first time that Stormus has posted a stolen data set. Last week, the gang asked their followers to vote on who should be their next victim, Coca-Cola, Mattel. So if you're one of the companies on this list at this point, you should be investigating, because they're not going to post these companies without already having access. And so everyone on this list, Mattel, Dan O'Hare, Blackboard, and GE Aviation, should all be deploying their CERT teams, investigating any massive data moves that they've had within their environments, because these guys were in there, they've got the data, and they'll be next on the list. Iranian hackers are exploiting the VMware RCE bug to deploy core impact backdoor. Rocket Kitten has been observed actively exploiting a recently patched VMware vulnerability to gain initial access and deploy the core impact penetration testing tool on vulnerable systems. This is tracked to CVE 2022-22905. With a CVSS score of 9.8, the critical issue concerns a case of remote code execution vulnerability affecting VMware Workspace ONE access and identity manager. The issue was patched by the virtualization service provider on April 6th of this month. The company cautioned users of confirmed exploitation of the flaw in the wild just a week later. VMware's been really good about this stuff, and then they should be. A lot of the world is powered by VMware. So they've done a really good job. You've got to get your VMware stuff patched. Get it patched, and get it patched right now if you can. Finally, in a signal that I don't know what it is outside of just Russia bad, notice that we don't hear about China anymore. Did China's cyber activity stop, or are we being distracted by Russia? I think it's the latter. The U.S. State Department announced a $10 million reward Tuesday for information about 6 hackers working within the GRU. The 6 of them are tied to Sandworm and were implicated in the creation of NotPetya in charges that were filed by the Justice Department in 2020. Here's the thing. We don't have an extradition treaty with the Russians. These guys could get new identities in Russia and technically change their names. They're GRU officers, and alter their identity just slightly and be able to roam freely. They can't come to the U.S., but they can still go to other CIS countries. It's foolish what this is, right? This is such a distraction. And what are you going to do? Really? I mean, we're willing to pay, like, it's our taxpayer dollars invested in something else other than targeting these guys. I'm not saying we shouldn't target people who target our country, our nation, or even cyber actors. They're state-sponsored actors. So this should be resolved diplomatically. But no, that's not the case. This is a huge just signal, like, we're treating the Russian threat seriously across all fronts. This is Obama going back to 2012 to 2016, the Obama strategy of just pushing out money and pictures, kind of like the name and shame tactic. That does not work, right? This needs to be approached through the State Department with the cyber unit that's dealing with diplomacy, that's getting and establishing rules to the game. We should be focused more on China. China is a greater threat than the Russians ever will be. But nope, that's not what's going to happen here, because common sense, not so common. Not at this point, folks. And it's really, really depressing. So that's it for our show today. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap it up for the week and so much more. Until then, have a great rest of your day, folks. Patch your Chromes. pay attention to this kind of stuff. The stuff that we see is really critical, and I can't wait to see what the IOCs and TTPs on the Coca-Cola incident are as well. And patch your VMwares. Really, really important if you haven't done so. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.